Welcome back. I'm Chris Aos.
I'm Aos, and this is the Aos-to-Aos podcast. All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about habits that help you build success. Habits are something that, like last week we talked about mental toughness. It's something that will really help you in the long run and actually kind of builds off mental toughness and like a mindset and things such as that. Because, I mean, if you have all these habits, you know what I mean, it'll, like we talked about, like the 1% things, 1% changes, like the bicycle team, whatever it is, it starts to help you develop better skills and mental toughness and things such as that. Do you agree?
Yeah, you can have as much mental toughness as you want, but if you don't have, the habits in place in the system, I mean, you're never going to get anywhere.
Right.
I mean, you can have a good running car, but if you don't know how to drive it, you're not going to get from A to B. So that's where habits really come in.
For sure. In the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the writer Stephen Covey talks about if you have a roadmap and you're trying to get around Chicago, but it's labeled Chicago and it's actually Detroit, you know what I mean? You're not going to get anywhere. Same thing with habits. If you don't have effective habits, but you have the right mindset, you're like, I want to get here, but you just have an ineffective system of getting there, you're not going to really get anywhere. It's like driving around Chicago with a map of Detroit. It's going to be very off, and you're not really going to get where you want to go. But yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I just finished that last night. What are some of your thoughts on that book? I know it was a long time ago that you read it, but what are some of your thoughts on that book, and has it helped you in a way develop who you are today? Or
I mean, it's been a long time since I read the book, but I mean, like it's kind of a timeless book. I mean, everything that he talks about in there is stuff that's been proven, and like it's stuff that still applies today. I think I kind of looked at it and got a really quick refresher this morning, but there's a lot of stuff that's still in there relevant. Like the first habit is being proactive. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, we've talked about that several times. Right. Getting ahead of the game and developing your habits. Like getting up in the morning and making your bed, and before putting on your pants and all that kind of stuff. Even if you don't have to go anywhere. I mean, that's a kind of a proactive habit.
Right.
I mean, you're kind of just setting the groundwork so that when you add more habits to that, that they're not going to be overwhelming, that it's just going to be another thing that you add to your daily routine, right?
Right, yeah, for sure. And like, even though I think we even touched on this last time, even if you're just making your bed, it doesn't seem like something that would help you in a way. But, you're just having a habit and you're building, momentum in just doing that one thing. And then you are automatically doing it. So you add one more thing and one more thing. And eventually you're just working really hard at, making your life better. You know what I mean? And I think it translates into other areas, not necessarily making your bed. One thing also is like, when I listen to motivational speeches, I hear people say, I wake up and make my bed and take a cold shower. These are great things to get people motivated, but it's not necessarily habits that you have to have. Like, I don't really take cold showers, you know what I mean? And we talked about this a long time ago on the podcast as well, but just take it like with a grain of salt as your life like applies to it, you know what I mean? So if you want to do that, if it's going to help you in the long run, do it. If it's not, don't do it. Taking cold showers doesn't help me, because hot showers is one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning. So if it helps you, and I mean, maybe later on in life I'll do it, but so if it helps you, it does. And then anyway, one thing to be proactive in too that I noticed in the book is in your relationships. So he talked about having like a bank account. So with your spouse or whatever, don't withdraw more than you put in, you know what I mean? So put in nice deeds and things like that, and be proactive about that. So when you need to withdraw, you know what I mean? You need to go on a camping trip, or you want to buy something, or just take something emotionally out of that person. Maybe maybe somebody in your family dies, or whatever it is. You can be proactive enough to put things into the relationship, so when you take it out, it's not withdrawing into the red. Is pretty much how he described it. So I mean, that's another way you can be proactive too. So
absolutely, I think that I remember going to a pre-marriage counseling seminar, and it was talking about, in a relationship, putting in 100 and expecting 0 back. And I think that you can kind of apply that in any part of your life. If you're, if you're investing 100% into your community and into your family and into, your relationships and not expecting anything in return, it builds a good foundation. And then when you do need to actually make a withdrawal, like you say, and, get that emotional support back or something like that, you're always in the positive. So it makes for a better experience.
It's the same thing too with business if you think about it, because if I'm building my business and I'm putting a lot of time and effort into it, when I need to withdraw, like let's say a family emergency happens, I have to leave, I might not I won't be in the red necessarily just because I have to go, you know what I mean? So being proactive in my business, like I could go to a movie or I could work, you know what I mean? And, putting in that work helps build my account, aka my business, so that if I have to withdraw for a long time, I'll be all right. So, I mean, any area in life you can probably translate that into, you know what I mean? Like if it's like a sports team, put more time into practice, put more time into this. And if you have to leave, your spot on the team will hopefully be there, you know what I mean? And I think you can apply that to pretty much any part of your life. But yeah, so what was the second one? Did you have it right there?
Begin with the end in mind was the second habit that he talks about in the book. And I think we kind of touched on that when we were talking about David Goggins. David Goggins went into everything he did, like when he said he, wanted to be a Navy SEAL. He was 300 pounds, but he knew what his end result was going to be, where he wanted to be. And, that kind of, I guess, reinforces the point that, Stephen Covey's making, to have that end in sight, know where you want to be in life, know what you want out of life, what your financial goals are, what your life goals are, know where you want to be. Right. And that way, what steps you need to take to get there. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, of course, but he wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and it wasn't like most people have the idea of, I want to be here, so I'm going to do this, this, and this. He said, I want to be here. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. You know what I mean? So, when he got there, he expected to probably go through Navy SEAL training once. He went through 3 times because he started with the end in mind, and he didn't care how he got there. He just wanted to get there. And eventually he did get there, of course, but he didn't make the mistake of being like, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to stick to this regiment, and anything that gets in my way, it's going to affect my ends. You know what I mean? But if you start with the end in mind and you don't worry about the in-between, you're going to get there not faster or easier necessarily, but, you're going to get there eventually if you work hard enough.
Well, I think in a way it helps too because, so many times we have failures on our way to our goal. Like you want to do a certain thing, but, you just have small failures. And a lot of times, people get discouraged, and that's why they never get to their end goal. So I think that's, why when you focus on your end goal, it helps you get through those small hurdles, like whether it's, finding a supplier or finding financing or whatever it might be when you're starting a business, if you keep your sight on your end goal, it makes it a lot easier to get through those first struggles.
Yeah. And also just identify habits, since we're talking about habits that'll get you there. So let's say your end goal is to lose weight. Some people think it's just, I'm going to do this and lose weight. If you keep the end goal in mind and you're willing to develop the habits and go through whatever it is, you might say, this week I am going to go to the gym and I'm going to, just start working. And, every single day I'm just going to, go to the gym, start working. I'm not even going to worry about it. Just put on my shoes, go start working. You know what I mean? And then next, week or however you work, 5 days, 3 days, whatever it is, you're going to go, okay, now I am not drinking soda, I'm not going to have any more sugar, you know what I mean? So you work on that, and you have the going to the gym part, now you're adding the sugar part, you know what I mean? And you're like, now I'm going to add more, vegetables to my diet, and then working on these things, and eventually you're going to get to your end goal of losing weight, adding those little habits. You don't have to go like 0 to 100, you know what I mean? You don't have to go, I want to lose weight, so I can't eat anything bad, I'm going to eat everything good. And of course that some people can work that way, but other people can't. So you have to build those habits slowly. You know what I mean? It's not an overnight process. You don't go from, being overweight to, healthy overnight. It takes months and months and months of dedication. And sometimes you need to have those small habits to build the dedication. So, but Did you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
His next one, he talks about putting first things first.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
It kind of builds off what I said before. Like, well, I mean, it can, like, all of these habits, they go into pretty much every area of life. If I go off the analogy of losing weight, putting first things first kind of builds off what I said. Don't just, think that I'm going to lose weight tomorrow. You know what I mean? Put first things first. Well, I got to go to the gym. So that's first thing. That'll help me, get into the rhythm of, exercising regularly, blah, blah, blah. And you put that first. Then you put, the next step next. And, you can identify as you go. Or, possibly you're the type of person that needs to put the diet first, then the exercise, then the whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But make sure to identify what's good for you first. And not just in, like, the gym, like if you're starting a business, there's obviously a different set of options that if you're starting, like, a, new social media platform that's going to challenge Facebook, or if you're starting a pizzeria, you know what I mean? So put first things first for you. For the, pizzeria guy, it might be, find a location. Work on your menu. For the Facebook guy, you know what I mean, person who wants to develop the next Facebook, it's going to be something like learn how to code, develop your business model, something like that, develop, the way people can interact that's going to challenge Facebook or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So put first things first, what's good for you, you know what I mean? So I like to hear your thoughts about that too.
I kind of see what you're saying, and I agree with everything you're saying. I guess it's really not that it's really not that intensive of a subject. I mean, it really is just a matter of figuring out what your goals are and what your best first step is. But it's going to depend on the person and what they really need to do. Like you say, with the losing weight, it might be someone might need to go to the gym first, or might need to change their diet, or it might just be a matter of just making small adjustments, like cutting out soda or something like that. So, I mean, I guess that one is, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, for sure. The fourth one, I believe, was think win-win.
Win-win. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good one. It also goes into a lot of depth in the book. So if people are, wondering about any of these, just go read the book. We can't exactly describe it in depth because, of course, this is a longer book.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really good anecdotes in the book and stuff and stories. So
things from his lifetime that necessarily, like, maybe we can't relate to, but listening to the stories helps us. But the win-win thing, there's a lot of mentalities out there, like win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose, win-win and no deal. I think he had. I think there might be a bit more, but the essential, concept of it is, like, if me and you were in a business discussion and we were going to develop a product and I wanted more stake in the company or whatever it was, there's a situation where we might lose, I might lose, you might win, I might lose, whatever it is. We might have a negotiation where I want more stake in the company, I want you to have less, and, I give you this, whatever it is. And you see that as a loss, I see that as a win. And you want more stake in the company, you see that as a win, I see that as a loss. So we're butting heads and things like that. But when we could just look at the situation as win-win, where maybe we split the profits 50-50 and we, develop a system where we can both manage the company or something like that. Thinking of, in situations of, he made a really good point in the book of, if you're going to go to your grandmother's house, if you're going to go fishing and your wife want to go to your mother's house, her mother's house, instead of butting heads, maybe you could figure out a way to get around that. Maybe go fishing closer to your mother's house and spend some time with her mother, you know what I mean? Because her mother might be ill or whatever it is. But, if you just butt heads all the time, you're not going to get to the point where you can make that deal, or in a way, in relationships. And like I said, through it all, it translates into every other part of your life. It's a mentality and a habit you can have for things like business, relationships, and just like different things in your lifetime. You know what I mean? So what do you think about that, and maybe has it helped you in your life at all?
It has, and I think it's in a lot of ways, like if you go back to what I was talking about that 100-0 mentality, when you put in 100% and expect zero back, I mean, you don't necessarily feel like you're losing. When you have that right mentality, I mean, you feel like you're winning. And of course, when you're putting 100% in, you're, making sure the other person feels like winning as well. So I think it's a great concept because, if both people feel like they're getting the good deal, or maybe not necessarily the best deal, but if they feel like they're getting a good deal and they're happy with the deal, they're going to both work harder to make that deal work. So I mean, in the long run, making the other person feel like they've won, or that they're winning, I guess not necessarily won, but making them feel like they're winning will actually help you in the long run as well, because you're going to have a partner instead of an adversary. So
right.
It's very important, I think.
And even going as far as like in the future, if you are going to work with this person in the long run, your relationship is going to be a lot better in the future when you do more business deals than if you had a win-lose situation where you won, he lost, or even you lost and he won, because you're going to resent that, or he's going to resent that. But if you have a win-win situation, you guys are going to build a better professional relationship together. So,
which is going to end up being better results for your business.
Exactly. Or even if it's a personal relationship such as your spouse, having a win-win mentality instead of having a win-lose mentality is going to result in less resentment. Like, imagine if they went fishing instead of going to the her mother's house, and then her mother fell ill and died. This is one thing he mentioned in the book. He wouldn't be able to forgive himself, and the wife wouldn't be able to forgive him, really. And that would create a very big, split in the relationship that and might not be able to be fixed, you know what I mean? So having a win-win mentality is more than just getting what you want. It's making sure that in the long run you have a good relationship. And just like anything else, it's a habit, you know what I mean? You got to work on it every day. We're naturally inclined to want our own things to matter, you know what I mean? So working on this every day is a great habit to have. It's one of the better ones in this book, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this next part here is actually one of my favorites. We kind of touched on it a little bit in some of the earlier ones, but it's to seek to understand before you seek to be understood.
Right.
It's a really good practice because so many people want everyone to know their side of the story. They want to get their side out and have people understand what they're going through and, kind of, I guess, connect with them. But truly, when you seek to understand other people first and then seek to be understood, it just sets up that, an environment where, the other person feels like, I guess it kind of goes back to that win-win. It makes that other person feel like they're winning first, and then you win in return because then they take the time to understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also like, if you seek to be understood, maybe that person in your life, like if it's a relationship or if it's a business decision, if you seek to be to understand and to be understood, maybe that person's not a win-win person. They're a win-lose person, you know what I mean? And they're on their side. So if you seek to understand, maybe you can show them a little bit more compassion and they'll be more lenient to see your point of view. And then, of course, be understood, just like it says in the book.
Yeah. And I think also that when you seek to understand somebody, maybe, part of the process is you hear where they're coming from, what they're trying to tell you, and it actually impacts what your understanding is. So, that can help you when you're trying to be understood afterwards. Maybe, having that perspective helps out quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Most of these go together really well. So I like how he went from win-win to seek to understand and then to be understood, because it really puts into perspective the win-win mentality, you know what I mean? Because if you, like I said, if you really put into perspective like their point of view and then your point of view after that, you can really decide if it's a situation you want to be into. Because if you're just trying to swindle me, I can understand your point of view and then realize if I'm going to even want to be in the situation, much less make it a win-win situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and make adjustments if you need to.
Make adjustments, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
And what was the next point?
I believe it was synergize.
Synergize.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of a deep one. What's your take on that?
The way he put it in the book was, in a way, it's like having a symbiotic relationship in a way. So I'm able to work with you, you're able to work with me, and we go into a relationship, seeing other people's point of views, and we're able to work together to like create a common goal in a way. he explained it in ways of like relationships where, you know, the example I had earlier of the, you know, we can go to your mom's house or we can go to fishing or whatever. When we create those scenarios where we're working together in, you know, even in business or in relationships or whatever it is, we're kind of synergizing and we're creating deeper relationships. And if we're able to go into each situation with, you know, different mentalities, that's exactly what we're doing. We're synergizing. Mm-hmm. And like I said, of course, you can go into it in a business way. If, you know, you're going into a meeting, you don't want to, this is one example you had in the book, if you want to make sure everyone sees your point of view, but you don't want to get everyone defensive, you go into the meeting thinking or having everyone think in a more positive point of view, not getting defensive or reactive, but instead listening to your point of view and adding things to it, you know, trying to work together. And that really creates a win-win scenario in a way. If you're able to have the mentality of seek to be understood, then seek to understand and then to be understood in both areas. Like if me and you are in a business discussion and we both seek to understand then to be understood, we're really synergizing. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much what he said in that.
So here's like an example. Like, so if you were to go into a meeting where there was some disagreement and stuff, so if you went in there and you started talking about like the first 3 points that everyone agreed on, mm-hmm. and before you got into the ones that maybe might be a bit more contentious, so if you know, talked about the things that you agreed on, that would be kind of synergizing with the group, you know, kind of getting everyone on the same page, and then going into the stuff that, you know, needs more discussion. Is that kind of, am I understanding that right?
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is. I mean, just like everything, I think I keep beating this to death, but it's like every situation, and you can pretty much form it into any situation. It's just a situation where, you know, we want to get something done. So if in the business meeting we want to talk about these points, and obviously there's a reason we're talking about them, because we need to get it done in our business. So we use this habit, and it is a habit, again, like you want to form it over time. So we use this habit to get that through. So I mean, if you want to, you know, make sure everyone feels heard and sees a point of view, and you can really use this property to do that in a way. Was that your question?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That kind of, I mean, it's kind of the same thing I'm thinking on. I just wanted to kind of know what your perspective was. If I was kind of understanding that the same way you understood it. Yeah.
And then the next point that he had, the next habit, and we'll kind of move on to some of the other notes we have here, was to sharpen your saw. And if what he put in, I'll have your take on it, but he had an example of somebody was chopping down trees with a saw, and, you know, they had a lot of trees to do. They were working very hard, and it was going to take them all day. And so he said, why don't you stop for a second and sharpen your saw? And the guy was like, no, I don't want to stop. I want to keep working. But if he sharpened the saw, he could get it done 2 times faster. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of his thing. So what are some ways you can sharpen your saw in the day-to-day life and build habits to sharpen your saw and things like that?
I think this is something that we have, I mean, it's been a common theme in all of our podcasts. We've talked about it quite a bit. You know, like there's so many ways out there nowadays to sharpen your saw. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's podcasts, there's, you know, all these different YouTube, you know, even short YouTube videos, there's books. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether you're reading them or listening to them on Audible. And it's not only listening to focus stuff that improves yourself. I think that it also ties into, you know, your habits and stuff. I mean, like getting up every morning and doing your morning routine and, you know, doing the things that, you know, get you set up for the day is also sharpening your saw. Mm-hmm. You know, those little changes, you know, like it's like, okay, yeah, you don't feel like getting up and doing those things in the morning, like getting up and reading, or getting up and making your bed, or getting up and, you know, doing the things that you need to do. But, you know, eventually, you know, those things add up. Right. And I mean, they just make your day go that much better.
For sure. It's almost like if you're hustling really, you know, hard and you're working towards a goal, it's almost like you're just chopping through. I think they had an analogy in the book, or it might have been a different book, but they're like, you're chopping through a forest, you know what I mean? And you're working really hard, but unless you take a step back and you maybe climb a tree and look to see if you're even going in the right direction, you know what I mean? Like, you might be working very, very hard, but you need to step back and, you know, sharpen your saw in a way that, like, if you're working really hard on your business, you might need to take a step back and, you know, read a book, you know what I mean? Like, don't neglect that side of it, sharpening your mind, sharpening your saw, so that you can, you know, create a better environment for yourself to flourish in. You know, reading all these books that I've been reading this month, I've learned a lot more about business than I have, just trying to, have hands-on experience. I think I'm the kind of person that works good on hands-on experience, but I kind of left that as my only option. Mm-hmm. So now that I'm learning more in books, I'm sharpening my saw more because I learned, things more about, customer service and like the journey, and, you got to take steps and sharpen your mind and things like that. So, this is probably one of the most important things. And I mean, I think that each step in the habits of the 7 habits of highly effective people is a way to sharpen your saw. Mm-hmm. Like each step, starting from the first one, I'm drawing a blank on the name, and then working, down the list and all the way down from synergize to, sharpen your saw. I think it wraps it up in a way, doing all these things really will sharpen your mind to help you grow in the future.
And I think one thing that we should mention here too, that kind of fits into sharpening your saw, is also surrounding yourself with people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the things I was just sitting here thinking that, even being around you mm-hmm. helps me to sharpen my saw. I mean, right. I learn so much from you, and I get so many different perspectives from you. That's, an important way, surrounding yourself with positive people, surrounding yourself with people that are maybe even doing things in the wrong way. Mm. You're when you're out there and you're surrounding yourself with people and seeing people and seeing how they work, I mean, it gives you an opportunity to make changes in yourself and, do things positive for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, even getting out there to, hang out with friends doesn't seem that big of a deal. But I went out last night to hang out with my buddy and his family. And I mean, I was like, I want to be a homebody today. You know what I mean? But I went out to, just get out of my comfort zone. And mm-hmm. it ended up being an awesome experience. And it's sharpening what I saw because I'm getting out of my comfort zone and hanging out with my, friends and their family, and something I usually wouldn't do. And that is sharpening my saw, even something as little as that. And that just sounds like a waste of time in a way. Not a waste of time, but like, most people say, dedicate all your time to hustling. You know what I mean?
I don't agree with that, because I think that if you neglect your self-care, if you neglect your emotional care, you're not going to be effective in your business and in your other stuff. I mean, you talked about that in the last podcast about how you have made an effort to spend more time with family because that's important to you, and you know that it's important to you. So right. I think that stuff is also sharpening your saw, because you're making sure you're staying healthy emotionally.
Right.
I mean, like, you got to find that balance, and some people need more family time to, to be emotionally healthy.
Well, like we said, I think this has been a common theme with the podcast, is success is happiness. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, success isn't, money or power or anything. It's happiness. So, and I won't be happy unless I have my friends and family. You know what I mean? Like, I can have all the money in the world, but I'll be miserable. Mm-hmm. But, you can still be, very successful, even to the point where you're a billionaire and have a good family life. It's all about hard work. If I'm able to, make sure both of these things are, important to me, I can make that work. You know what I mean? Sorry, I kind of got off the point there, but, it's all about sharpening your saw. I can bring it back to that. If you're sharpening your saw to cut out things like maybe I just don't watch TV, because you can spend that time working on your business. That way, when your family's around, you don't have to work on your business. You know what I mean? So it's all, I think you can tie it pretty much into anything. Just like all the other habits, and I've been beating that to pretty much a pulp, but you can tie that into everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that, you kind of mentioned in your notes that I thought was a really good point to touch on was not buying into fake habits.
Right.
So maybe you can kind of elaborate on that.
Well, kind of like more fake habit processes in a way. People sometimes take a different direction in making habits. So an example of having a good habit would be like what we said about the gym. Like you can work on your diet, and then you can work on, going to the gym, and then you can work on, all these things, maybe tweak your diet a little bit, read some more, add new exercises, whatever it is, like tweak things and add the little 1% changes and things such as that. That's a good habit to get into, because it builds it slowly, and you get into the habit of it. A bad process would be like, just cutting out one bad thing for another. You know what I mean? So I do know somebody, I'm not going to name names or anything, but they want to cut out soda, so they go from Mountain Dew to Sprite to Dr. Pepper, and eventually they're going to get to ginger ale. But I don't think that's an effective process, because you're not really building a habit. You're just building more of I would say like a need for these things, because like you're not getting off it. thinking is that he's too addicted to it. And if you just break that addiction, it would help you. But he's trying to work off it to the point where he's at ginger ale, and I don't think that's really helping, because in the long run, it's kind of hurting you.
I think that kind of ties back into, having your end goal in mind, like focusing on that end goal and getting there, because it sounds to me like that's more of a, I'm just going to change it a little bit, but I'm really not ready to quit. So I think that, with any kind of habit that you want to quit, I mean, you have to have that end goal in mind and have a plan to get there. I kind of went through the same thing with smoking and chewing and stuff, and until I finally decided, I'm done, I'm ready to have this done, I just kind of moved from one habit to the next habit, and I think that that's kind of the same thing. You have to have that end goal in mind and make a decision that it's what you really want. Until you really want something, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what's important about this is that, I mean, I can give you endless examples, but what's really important is that if you're going to build a habit, realize that a habit, if you're working towards something, that's great. But if you're just making yourself feel better, feel like you're going towards something, it's not working. You know what I mean? If you're just going from one bad thing to another bad thing, but like you are saying it's because of progress, it's really not. Don't lie to yourself. Identify if it's actually working or not. And if it's a habit that's helping you work towards your end goal, or if it's just really keeping you in the same spot but making you feel a little better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're kind of, okay, we're gonna have to edit that out. Kind of touched on pretty much everything except for adding new habits, and we could probably tie in the making it something that challenges you.
Yeah.
So we've kind of talked through all the 7 habits. Now to go a little bit deeper, I mean, like, I think one of the themes throughout all the 7 habits is that, that you can kind of tie into is that they are habits. These are things that you need to develop. These are, they're kind of the base for, all of your other habits. I mean, we've talked about all the different things that we do in the morning, to set up our day for success, the things that we do day to day, etc. Now, you've also touched on a little bit about adding new habits every day. So how do you kind of come up with that process? How do you kind of come up with what your next habit's going to be, or whether you're not going to have or whether you're going to add another habit? I mean, is this something that you do regularly, or is this something that you just do when you see a need, or, I mean, is this just kind of part of your process?
I mean, it ties in every part of my life, really. I do it before I see a need, and when I see a need, it depends on the thing. Like, for my health, I decided not to eat too much sugar lately. You know what I mean? To make better choices, I don't need too many things that are I know bad for me. Like, I don't go out to McDonald's or whatever. I don't eat overly sugary things. I don't drink soda. I'm trying to get off coffee. And that's not really a need. I don't have health problems. So I'm doing that way before I have to. But if I do have a need for something, I can enact it, the habit I identify as like being one that'll help me. I can do it like right now and then start working towards that. But I mostly just add things. I'd say for me, I add things pretty quickly. I'm one of those people who can just kind of quit something cold turkey mostly. With coffee, I mostly just don't want to. I'm probably gonna try to put tea in my diet, but right now I kind of just like the coffee. You know what I mean? But I can quit things cold turkey, or I can just kind of wean off them in a shorter period of time, maybe like a week. So like when I decided I didn't want to eat as much meat as I do vegetables and things such as that, because my doctor told me I should have more fiber in my diet and things like that. I decided to just like seriously stop it right there. I don't eat that much meat. I do eat meat. Like if I have a salad, I'll put chicken, or maybe I'll put cheese on it, which is an animal product. But I kind of can just do it quickly. For some people who aren't able to do that, probably do it every month or something like that. And that's why I think that you shouldn't set a New Year's resolution. You should set a resolution to set a new resolution every month. So for the month of January, don't drink soda or have overly sugary things. Then the next month, go for a walk every single day. And then for the next month, maybe work on your diet a little bit, and then the next month do this and that and the other thing. because your real end goal is to lose weight. But instead of saying I'm going to lose weight, which is such a broad spectrum, maybe do something that challenges you each and every day, and set a new resolution each and every month that's going to challenge you. And so maybe even it's like, I'm going to walk every single day for the first week of February, and then the next week I'm going to walk a little more, and then I'm going to jog, and then I'm going to run. You know what I mean? Whatever it is for you, start challenging yourself. If you're able to do it, if you're a really slow learner and you have to like walk every single day, that's fine. But just remember that it's going to get you there slower. If that's the way you learn, that's fine. But yeah, just do something that challenges you every single month, or every single day, or every single week, however you learn. For me, it's usually quicker. I don't know if it's because I'm young, but that's the way it is for me. And for somebody, it might be a month or maybe even longer than that. So,
Well, some really good things to think about in there. And I guess, it goes back to what we've talked about, that everyone's different and everyone's going to learn differently, and everyone's going to have different triggers and things that, allow them to change and make them change. So, that's really good advice. I guess one of the other things to talk about is make sure it's something that's challenging you. That it's not, just adding a habit just so you can have a habit. Like if it's not stretching you, it's really not doing you any good.
Right.
So if you're adding, you're making sure that you're doing this stuff every month and you hate it, but I'm doing this to challenge myself and to stretch myself, but it's really not giving you any benefit, then there's really no use to do it. So, making sure that each habit you have actually is something that, that not only challenges you and stretches you, but also that you enjoy, and maybe not enjoy the process, but enjoy the result.
Right. That also fits into don't buy into the fake processes kind of thing. One thing I noticed in my life, I was thinking about maybe staying later at work, you know what I mean? But that's not a place that I want to be. I don't want to work there forever. So I was thinking, maybe I'd stay later for work a little harder, get a little extra money, but that's not somewhere I want to be. So I shouldn't work harder at that point, because I can go home and work on my businesses. You know what I mean? So it might be good for some people to work harder at work. It might be good for some people to just be like me and, work your 8 hours and then go home and, do what you got to do on the family side or the business side or whatever it is. But if it's something that, won't help you and is harder, you know what I mean? It's challenging you, but it's not going to help you in any way. Just don't do it. Some things can build mental toughness, you know what I mean? Like working hard at your job, but it's not going to help you get any further in life. You can build mental toughness in some other ways, you know what I mean? And it can help you get to where you want to be, like working out. I think everyone would benefit from working out. I don't know about anybody who really wouldn't benefit, besides people who are possibly paraplegic, you know what I mean? But for, me and, I think everyone else, pretty much the general population, 99% of the world, can benefit from working out. So something like that can challenge you, and you don't have to necessarily sacrifice, time towards your dreams for building mental toughness, because you can build it in so many other ways. And of course, if people don't know, we did a podcast on it a little bit ago. You can go check that out, about mental toughness, and you can get some good tips and things and our points of view on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that just about does it for today. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, down below is our social media. Go check it out. Leave a like, subscribe if you like the podcast, and leave a comment if you want us to talk about anything on the podcast.
Yeah, and make sure to hit that bell notification so that you're notified when we upload new videos.
It's good to see you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks for watching.